Hello students, welcome to the next lecture on the calculus for engineers. Today I will give you the motivations and the visualizations behind the topic implicit function. Myself Dr. Harish, you can follow and subscribe my YouTube channel. Now सबसे पहले first question is always arises in every student's mind is why there is a need of the today's topic implicit functions. Fine. What is the motivation behind that and why there is a need of the implicit function? Consider the three examples in your mind like y is equal to 2x plus x square y plus y minus 4 is 0 and so on. Now if I ask you, can you write these three functions either y as a single function of the x or x as a single function of the y? Make sure students you have to pay more attention on the word single. Single के ऊपर बड़ा ज्यादा फोकस करना है आपको. Fine. So can you write y as a function of the x or x as a function of the y? Of course you can do. पहले केस में y की वैल्यू तो निकली गई है आपके पास. Second case में what is the value of the y? I can take an y as a common from the first two terms and then I can write as a y is 4 divided by x square plus 1 and you can write x, it will be 2 divided by y plus 1 minus 1, or you can also find the value of the y which comes to be 2 divided by x plus 1 minus 1. Fine. चाहे तो आप y की वैल्यू निकाल दो इन टर्म्स ऑफ द x और चाहे आप x की वैल्यू निकाल दो इन टर्म्स ऑफ द y, बट मेक श्योर द वर्ड इज सिंगल. सिंगल का मतलब कहीं पे भी आपके पास पावर 1/2 पावर 3/4 नहीं होनी चाहिए. फाइन. क्योंकि अगर पावर 1/2 आ गई तो इसके कितने रूट्स आएंगे? देयर आर द 2 रूट्स. फाइन. इसमें पावर 1/4 है तो इसके 4 वैल्यूज आएंगी आपके पास. फाइन. अगर तो आप किसी भी इक्वेशन को सिंगल फंक्शन की फॉर्म में लिख सकते हो एंड दैट इक्वेशन इज कॉल्ड एज एक्सप्लिसिट इक्वेशन. Fine. And the corresponding function is called as explicit function. Fine. In general term, if you can write y as a function of the x or x as a function of the y, such equations or such function is called as explicit functions. So all these three examples are my explicit equations or explicit functions. However, if I give you these two examples, can you find the value of the y as a function of the x? Single value? Definitely not, because of the term e की power y. Or can you find the value of the x in terms of the y? Again, definitely not, because of the value of the sin x. Similarly, if you look for the second equation, because of the sine of yx, you are unable to find the value of the y in terms of x and you are unable to find the value of the x in terms of the y explicitly. Fine. तो अगर जिस इक्वेशन को आप explicitly नहीं लिख सकते, such equations is called as implicit functions. Fine. Because you can never write these two equations as a function of the x or as a function of the y. Therefore, these two equations are called as implicit function. And that's why there is a need of the implicit function. क्योंकि आप हर इक्वेशन को explicit की फॉर्म में नहीं लिख सकते. In many real life problems in the mathematics, physics, engineering, which cannot be written in the explicitly in the form of y is equal to fx, और उस प्रॉब्लम को whether they are engineering, economics, physics, we always need the concept of the implicit function. Now, if I give the one example as a circle, can you say the equation of the circle is explicit or implicit? Can you find the value of the y? Can you find the value of the y as a function of the x? Of course you can. So the value of the y will be plus minus 25 minus x square. Now, can you write y as a single function of the x? What is the value of the y? Y is plus minus under root of 25 minus x square. Now tell me, is it implicit or explicit? Yes, anybody tell me? अगर तो आप सोच रहे हो कि ये एक्सप्लिसिट है, फाइन, देन आई कैन से गो बैक एंड देन वॉच माई फर्स्ट 2 minutes अगेन. एक्सप्लिसिट का मतलब समझिए. कैन यू राइट एज अ सिंगल फंक्शन? डेफिनेटली नॉट, बिकॉज यहाँ पे दो फंक्शन बन गए. वन इज कॉरस्पॉन्डिंग टू द प्लस, second is corresponding to the y. Therefore you can see they are this equation of the circle is not explicit. This is basically implicit functions. Like you can say, I can write the two implicit functions. One is upper semicircle and second is the lower semicircle, and the upper semicircle is itself my explicit, lower semicircle is itself my explicit, but if you combine them, then the equation is my implicit. Now, what is the implicit function? Any function which can define the relationship between the x and y is called as implicit function. It means if we consider the point x naught, y naught, then we can find the value of the y at the function of the x. Then such function is called as implicit function, but called as the locally, because we are only talking about a particular point, not as the complete domain. Like, can you define y implicit as the function circle of radius r? Yes, it's an implicit function. Fine. And if you consider the y is equal to x square only, now can you tell me whether it's explicit or implicit? Because you are written the function y as a function of the x. तो सिर्फ आपको ये देखना है कि y की सिंगल वैल्यू होनी चाहिए कि है कि नहीं है. इसमें y की कितनी वैल्यूज आएंगी? y will get a single value. x may have the different values, लेकिन y तो सिंगल ही आएगा ना. Fine. So that means y is equal to x square is my explicit function, because y is a single function of the x. However, if you write y is equal to root x, then definitely it is my implicit function, because it has two values corresponding the same value of the x. So that is my implicit, but y is equal to x square is my explicit function. But in the reality, many physics law, like very famous, the ideal gas equation, PV is equal to nRT. Fine. Can you say P is proportional to the R? Can you say P is proportional to the T? Or can you say pressure is inversely proportional to the volume? Not. Nature does not say P is a function of the V. अगर आप ये सोच रहे हो, you can find the value of the P as R nRT divided by V, then P as a function of the V, or V as a function of the T. That is not true, because the nature, all these variable P, V, N, R, T, all are interdependent on each other. Therefore, your equation is my implicit relations. Fine. Make sure, students, can you say pressure is a function of the volume? From this equation, can you say pressure is a function of the volume? अगर तो आप इसको इस तरह से लिख रहे हो, then you can say yes, but make sure this equation, ये जो आइडियल इक्वेशन है, ये कभी नहीं कहती कि प्रेशर जो है वो वॉल्यूम का फंक्शन है. That only says PV is equal to nRT. We as a human being chooses which variable we can solve and consider the relation. Therefore, the implicit equations are the natural language of the sciences. Now, the important concept is the local behavior. Suppose you have a function f which may not be function globally. Function कैसे कहते हो आप? अगर मैं आपको ये function दिखाऊं, clearly say it is not a function. Can anybody tell why it is not a function? अगर आप इसकी एक vertical line लगाओ, तो आप यहाँ देखो, यूनिक हर एक x के ऊपर आपको यूनिक y मिलना चाहिए ना. फंक्शन की डेफिनेशन क्या होती है? फंक्शन डेफिनेशन, corresponding to the each x you will get a unique y. बट यहाँ पे हर एक x के ऊपर आपको देखो दो वैल्यू ऑफ y मिलेंगी. दैट मीन्स इट इज नॉट ए यूनिक. x is my unique, but y is my not unique. That is not a function. Fine. But if you look about the point which is near to the any near point, let's say x naught, y naught, corresponding to any point, then you can say that is a function. Like अगर आपने सिर्फ ऊपर वाला ही पोर्शन ले लिया अकेला, fine, then it is clearly say it's a function, and that is called as the local behavior. How do we know that we can solve for the value of the y? That is the concept behind the implicit function theorem. If you consider the any function f, consider y as a function of the x. Can you equate y as a function of the x? कब हम किसी चीज को लिख सकते हैं, कब किसी चीज को नहीं लिख सकते? You can use the concept of the implicit function theorem. What is the simple concept is, अगर आपको किसी भी चीज को y as a function of f लिखना है, you can find the partial derivative of f with respect to y. अगर तो ये वैल्यू नॉन जीरो है, then yes you can write y as a function of the x. If f is my continuous partial derivative and the partial derivative of the f with respect to y at the given point is non-zero, then there exists the neighborhood of the x naught where you can write y as a function of the x. इसका मतलब implicit को explicit में about the point आप transfer कर सकते हो provided their partial derivative is my non-zero. Fine. And second is the curve is not vertical. Vertical, not vertical means उसकी जो slope है that should not be infinity. If you look about these two graphs, clearly say the first graph, the slope is not infinity. Fine, that means it is not a vertical. Or it's a vertical, why? Because if you find the slope, clearly say slope is my infinity. That is a y-axis are there. Fine, so that means it is my vertical. There are many real life examples like of the circles, physics law we have discussed. Find engineering constant x square plus y square. If you find the value of y, definitely it will be plus minus. That is not a single value. Similarly, if you look about the economics, fine. Again, you can never find the value of the p as a single function of the q or q as a single function of the y. All these are the examples of my implicit equations and the implicit functions. One of the major use of the implicit function is in terms of the derivative. We all know how we can find the derivatives in the calculus dy over dx. कैसे find करते थे आप इसका? That will take a 3x square minus 4y dy over dx plus I can use as a product rule x dy over dx plus 1 into y is equal to 0, and you can find the value of the dy over dx. That comes to be this expression. But अगर आपके पास expression कुछ complex हो जाए like sin of yx plus root of x square plus 1 plus e की power y plus log of x plus 2 divided by y is equal to 0, then by using the simple calculus dy over dx, the calculation becomes a very messy. Fine. तो इसका मतलब आपको क्या करना होगा, कोई एक ऐसी अप्रोच लेनी होगी जिससे डेरिवेटिव आसान हो जाए, एंड दैट कंसेप्ट वी कैन यूज एज द इम्प्लिसिट फंक्शंस. फाइन. सो विद द हेल्प ऑफ द चेन रूल, आवर लास्ट लेक्चर वाज ऑन द चेन रूल. फाइन, हमने लास्ट लेक्चर में चेन रूल सीखा है, तो उसी का यूज करके हम डेरिवेटिव का कंसेप्ट डिफाइन करेंगे. सो कंसीडर द फंक्शन f is a function of the x and y. Consider y is my dependent and x is my independent. Then what is the partial derivative of f with respect to x? 0 का derivative 0 हो जाएगा. Now by using the chain rule, f is the dependent on the x, f is the dependent on the y. Then x to x, तो ये कितना हो जाएगा? Partial derivative of f with respect to x. This is my dx over dx. Similarly, partial derivative of f with respect to y, and that will be my dy over dx. तो आपका लेफ्ट हैंड साइड क्या हो जाएगा? df over dx will be, f से लेके x तक पहुंचने के दो मेथड है आपके पास, दो वे हैं. द फर्स्ट वन इज partial derivative of f with respect to x into dx over dx प्लस एक सेकेंड वे आपके पास है del f upon del y into del y upon del x. राइट हैंड साइड आपकी, इसकी वैल्यू 1 हो गई. That number is my fx plus fy into dy over dx. Can you find the value of the dy over dx? That comes to be minus fx divided by fy. Now you can see that based on this function and the formula, you can easily calculate the partial derivative of the function with respect to x. 3x square plus y divided by partial derivative of the y minus 4y plus x. अब आप देखो इसमें से माइनस को एडजस्ट कर लो, you will get the same answer of the calculation. तो इसका मतलब by using the implicit functions आपका डेरिवेटिव प्रोसेस आसान हो जाएगा. और इसको याद कैसे करना है, अगर आपको मान लीजिए dy ओवर dz निकालना है, फाइन, तो इट विल बी नेगेटिव, जो आपने नीचे लिखा है इसे z पार्शियल डेरिवेटिव ऑफ द f विद रिस्पेक्ट टू z डिवाइडेड बाय पार्शियल डेरिवेटिव विद रिस्पेक्ट टू y. सिमिलरली हियर यहाँ पे x लिखा हुआ है तो पहले x के साथ डिवाइडेड बाय y. Similarly, for the higher dimension, if you are working for the R cube, that is a XYZ plane, again, it is my implicit function because you can never write as a single variable of the single function. Similarly, you can write as a plus minus, so you have the two different pieces. So what is the conclusion is implicit function allow us to find the relationship between the variables which cannot be written explicitly in terms of the other variables. अगर आप मोर एग्जाम्पल देखना चाहते हो, यू कैन वॉच माई 12+ एग्जाम्पल्स ऑफ द इम्प्लिसिट फंक्शंस अवेलेबल एट माई यूट्यूब चैनल डॉक्टर हरीश गर्ग. आई होप यू हैव लाइक दिस वीडियो एंड शेयर दिस वीडियो विद योर फ्रेंड्स एज वेल. लेट मी नो अगर आप मोर लेक्चर देखना चाहते हो मेरे, लेट मी नो, आई विल अपलोड द वीडियो वेरी सून. टिल देन यू कैन सब्सक्राइब माई यूट्यूब चैनल्स, write in the comment box interested to watch the videos. Best of luck students, happy learning always.